just to change the subject.
Just play my bloody record, which
well,
you never
that's
do.
what I want to get to. But the things that sort of that sparked a relationship with you and why we got on the air together was we started talking about music. So what do you think of the music scene today?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, there's so much good stuff. There's 50,000 times more nonsense you have to wade through. You talk about music, and I tend to talk about rock and roll because, and I know for a fact you agree with me because we've talked endlessly and at length about music effortlessly. So what rock and roll uniquely was in music was an idea. It was an attitude exemplified gloriously by Elvis or Little Richard, but specifically for the world because he was white and beautiful and young, Elvis. But the greatest rock and roll lyric, to my mind, is a wop, bop, a lop, bop, a lop, bam, boom. It says nothing, but it sounds like everything.
Sure does.
And it's just this rage, this inarticulate scream of frustration by this fabulous showman saying, 1955, I'm gay, I'm black, f*** off, you know, and I want in, you know.
Well, Bob, I'll tell you what I've profited greatly because there's a lot of music discussion goes on now, especially on Facebook and Twitter, you know, and you can connect with a lot more people about it. And they talk about the decades of music, and I've done this thing. Well, I don't agree with you about the 60s or 70s because it started in 55, and my take on the decades, I know that we talk about the 60s, but to me it's 55 to 65 to 75 to 85. And if you look at it like that, the eras of music do have a kind of balance that I think, because 65 to 75, I would pick, was an amazing explosion of technology, creativity, collaboration, probably the best creativity that I remember since
I would dispute it. I mean, where I do think there's a continuity is in the sense of this golden thread of rock and roll. So you get Elvis, you get Lennon, Dylan, Jagger, Townsend, Johnny Rotten. There's no difference. So this attitude thing needs to be present. Rock and roll needs...
So is that attitude around today?
Well, rock and roll needs a context in which to exist. And certainly that context exists today. Not in Australia, which is through the roof economically, but everyone feels, rather like the continent itself, that you're on the edge of something, always on the edge of a precipice. Here's this great desert pushing you all into the sea. And I think you kind of feel like that about the economy, like what's this developmental boom? You know, it springs out of your commodities exports, which depend on China. And if that goes bust, Jesus, where are we? You know, so you're clinging to the edge of this economic desert as well, but doing well on it like you are, you know, thing. So how far can it go? So there's a context in which this happens here. And in England, of course, it's existential. The economy's bottomed out. If you live in London, it's less... You don't get that sense. But outside, I was touring England all through, up to last Christmas, and I'm there again in 3 weeks. It's awful out in the cities. And that's precisely the type of place, it's a terrible thing to say, that rock and roll springs out of.
Yeah.
So my lot came out of 75, 76, where there was a zero economy and politics were useless. So music wasn't doing that anymore. Music was your thing about technology. Music was Rick Wakeman and Yes, or the Stones even are betrayed by their bloody mansion houses and the length of their limos and the height of their platforms, their stupid bouffant hairdos, and along comes these kids and go, what? What are you on about? Give me a job. And so you needed somebody very smart and to the point like John Lydon, who said everything before now. Year zero doesn't begin now. Year zero is us. It's us. And that's what's great about rock and roll. Year zero is whenever that next thing comes along that channels all that energy into an attitude. So the Pistols just said everything before us was rubbish. This incredibly brutal but beautiful nihilism. And they then go and prove it by making this fantastic album, one record, perfect, and then this comet streaks across the sky, scaring the shit out of everyone, and then crashes wonderfully. They go, wow, I saw that, it was great. And then others put a more coherent form in it. The Clash make it into sort of old-fashioned politics, which didn't really appeal. And then there was a bunch of others in my era. Maybe how many of us? 8 or 9 or 10. So does that context exist now? Yes, absolutely. Where's the sound? It isn't in what you're playing.
No.
And it isn't in what they want to hear that listen to this station, because they want to hear what you play.
And a lot of it comes from television nowadays.
Well, it does, but, that's great TV. Things like, I don't know what you call it here, but the Pop Idol stuff or the X Factor thing or Australia's Got Talent. I don't know if you have these shows. But
we do.
Yeah, but, that's fantastic television. You can't confuse the two. It's brilliant entertainment.
But it's dictating the programming to radio.
That's your problem. You should resist it. And it dictates it because the public see that and think that's great. But do they? So let me go into that.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's what I think too.
What this stuff does is it produces fantastic people with voices who would never get a chance. Yeah. And, they crop up and they're good dancers.
But the creativity's not there.
Or the thing. No, so we're the writers. Yeah. It's only rarely do you get a great voice that's an artist. Frank Sinatra, Elvis. They take a song that you or I have written and they invest it with a psychology that wasn't there, that gives it great meaning. So, That's All Right Mama. Who wrote That's All Right? Big Boy Crudup wrote That's All Right Mama. That's all right, Mama.
Well, Elvis did it.
That's
too.
all right. Yeah. Suddenly Elvis goes, and it's just shout, It's sexual, it's, bang. So Frank could take a song, Frank Sinatra, and suddenly there's whole other resonances going on in your head. It's really an art. And those people on X Factor or whatever, presumably one will come along that everyone will go, wow. But other than that, they just pop up to the charts for the moment they're number one and they're gone again. But good luck to them.